All right, y'all. Do you feel as though Martin Lawrence overall is appreciated for his impact on the culture? Denver, what do you think?
I'd say probably not. Like, you know, when I think about Martin, I think about like, what's the last thing he did, right? It was Bad Boys Forever. And, you know, that was dope, but it felt like nostalgia. At this point, like the Martin Show feels like a memory for like millennials and Gen X. Gen Z don't know who he is. So it's really tough to say he's still relevant. He's appreciated, but like not a lot of people, I think, like look back and think about Martin, you know, as like, you know, like Eddie Murphy, for example. You know, like I think he probably deserves more accolades.
Right. And when you think about Martin, like what do you remember most? What do you feel like is his lasting impact on the culture overall?
Oh, that's easy. It's always gonna be the show. There's nothing else but the show that comes to mind. Like I can think of like the physical comedy that he's done. Like I think about the courtroom scenes, right? Like I think about like him dragging the dog around the room. Like, you know, like I as soon as I tell you that setup, immediately, you know, like it conjures all these familiar images. You know, and that relates to me. And that was so pivotal to me when it comes to comedy and seeing like Black people on TV. So like, yeah, I found like a lot of sort of value in that.
Right. And obviously we know outside of the show, he's done movies, he's done comedy specials. Does anyone think he is still appreciated the way he should be?
Nah.
Nah, why? Why you say that, Kev?
People go, okay, well, what has he done last? I hate that. Because what he has done is cemented, and it's kind of like, you can't really erase none of that. Even his stand-up is like, his stand-up was great.
Yeah.
Martin hosting like, was it Def Comedy Jam?
Def Comedy Jam, yeah.
But check this out. What if I said he was overappreciated, right? Because I feel as though to be a legend, you have to do it and do it well for a very long time. And I feel like Martin had a moment, but did he really sustain who he was and what he meant to the culture for long enough to be cemented with the greats, right? I'm not so sure.
Absolutely.
I just feel like now, I've recently seen him a few years ago, probably on The Breakfast Club. And I feel like he's just not there with us. You know, I feel like when you think about the Bernie Macs, the Cat Williams, folks who have sustained comedy over their entire life, they're going to be funny, they're going to be engaging. And it feels as though he may be going through something personally, I don't know.
He's older now though.
He's older, but still old people can still be funny.
It's true, but I mean, maybe that was his impact for the time. That's what I'm just thinking. I mean, everyone doesn't aspire to keep going and going. Maybe he's just doing it for a check, or, you know, maybe he's just like,
maybe he lost his
what the background
inspiration,
is. Huh?
you know, like people go through waves. Maybe he just lost his inspiration. I just heard an interview with, maybe it was Diddy on The Breakfast Club, saying that he lost his inspiration for a couple of years. Maybe, you know, Martin lost his inspiration for a couple years. You know, maybe he needs to get that back, but he definitely was instrumental in the culture for sure. He's not appreciated as much as he should be, but he has a lasting impact, whether or not like he's done something lately, you know?
So can we iron this out a little bit more? Just curious, for the Gen Zers, right, who know nothing about him, like what shows do you think Martin has paved the way for?
Wow, that's a good one.
So I think immediately the Jamie Foxx show, but like there was so many other like Black sitcoms that came out. I think that the thing with Martin was like no one can really emulate that, right? Like his physical comedy worked because he was so naturally funny, right? Like so, he paved the way, but it was different, right? Like you couldn't recreate Martin no matter how hard you tried, because like his comedy was just so unique. Like Jamie was dope and he did physical comedy. It was different, but you don't get a lot of performers like that.
Right.
You know, like his body of work, to me, that's all he ever had to do was the Martin Show. And to me, that's a body of work that will stand the test of time. It's like Chappelle's show. You know, Jamie's done other things. Like everybody, like all you need is one thing.
But no, I will say with TikTok and the way of TV and movie entertainment now, everybody's struggling with I need some comedy on Netflix. I need some comedy on Hulu.
Facts.
And that's really the push right now from an actor's perspective, from a storytelling perspective. There's a huge push right now for comedy. And there's a lot of new Gen Zers who are coming up on TikTok with sitcom energy, which means they're looking backwards to what and who were the greats back then. So I think there is a sense of appreciation, and I think Martin is definitely a key one that people look into for that exact reason. Like his comedy is raw, it's also heartfelt, And the storyline was also very compelling consistently for a long period of time. In terms of us appreciating him in our culture, I think the way that the media forms who we appreciate comes a lot with how often you are in the spotlight. If you're not pushing out new content, if you are not highlighted, you're not gonna be seen in the media. And if you're not seen, you're not appreciated.
All right, so we talked about Martin's show. We talked about Martin the comedian, but we haven't even touched on Martin in the movies, and he has a long catalog. The fact that we don't even think about Martin in movies, does that kind of play into maybe his underappreciation in the culture? What do you think?
Just because we haven't mentioned Martin's movies in this conversation doesn't mean that it's not appreciated overall.
I think his range is crazy.
Most people forget though, like we did.
Yes, I think a lot of people forget. I'm more so of a fan of Martin in television, not necessarily in movies, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate his impact.
Can we run the list of movies? Got Blue Streak. Call it out if you got it.
Blue Streak, Thin Line Between Love and Hates,
Big Mama's House.
Big Mama's House,
Which was
1
hilarious.
and 2.
What's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that can happen?
Danny
Life,
Life, yeah.
Roscoe Jenkins.
Roscoe Jenkins,
Just say Bad Boys.
National
right?
Security.
all the bad boys.
But time out, is Martin in your top 5? In any of these categories, comedians, TV shows, actors, is he top 5?
Yeah.
For me,
He goes.
it's a no. He's dope. He's not in my top 5 though.
I'd say top 5 black sitcoms. That's easy for me. Top 5 of comedians, probably not. You know.
And what about movies?
That makes me
what
wanna
about
ask you
actor
your top
movies?
Not. I mean,
It's like how?
nah.
You know, as a woman who's not super into comedy, like Dave Chappelle and all those people, like Kevin Hart, I don't think they're that funny. But listen, Martin, because of Shanae, all right? And how he was able to play all those different characters and it felt real, it didn't feel overplayed, over funny, right? I actually do think he's in my top 5 personally.
Jerome's in the house, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Come on.
I was in the house.
All right.